In this video, we're going to look at how dog culture contributes to the employment bubble. So the employment bubble, what's that deal? So one of the things about the employment bubble, high cost products that contribute to the employment bubble by creating demand for jobs and productions in retail sectors, but they may not lead to sustainable growth. Such products often rely on inflated prices that can eventually lead to market corrections and job losses as the demand decreases. So think about this in the terms of dogs. Dogs are a high cost product and they're also highly marketed as a high value product. So this is kind of like a pump and dump scheme, which is kind of like slang for selling a product that seems to offer a high value, but it doesn't. It actually sets you up to have a lifetime of asset loss or a lifetime of financial loss, even though you paid a lot for it. And kind of like it says right here, it relies on inflated prices. That's the big point here. And then as people start to realize that it wasn't worth that much, as it says here, the demand is going to decrease, and then you're going to have job losses. Because a lot of these high dollar or high value products, they need a service industry to take care of them. So if you sell a car that is supposed to be reliable, but then everybody has to work on it and you have to pay more, you're not going to get that car next time, or you're just going to go broke having it. And that's kind of like what happens with dog ownership. And so the term employment bubble, it refers to a situation where there's a rapid increase in job opportunities that may not be sustainable. So this is directly and indirectly about jobs in the dog service industry or in industries that indirectly service dogs, like police and fire departments indirectly just service dogs because they constantly respond to dog calls. And so this often leads to a subsequent decline in employment rates. Currently, there are concerns about employment bubble in the tech sector. So the tech sector is one of these places right now that everybody's worried about, which is interesting because, why don't these people that are serving dogs go get a job in that tech sector instead of working on dogs? All right. So now let's look at some direct and indirect ways that dog culture is creating unemployment and creating this employment bubble. So, for example, doggy daycares are often experiencing staffing challenges, high turnover rates, and demanding nature of the work. This can lead to issues with supervision and quality for the dogs. So, working in the doggy daycare means you have to pick up heavy, obese dogs. You have to break up dog fights. Another thing about working in the doggy daycare, if you've been bit by a dog and you've broken up some dog fights in the past, and then one day you push a Rottweiler off of the top of a Chihuahua and somebody gets a video of that, they're going to call you a dog abuser. They're going to say that you body slammed the other dog, and you're going to have to deal with that too. You're going to have to deal with the irate, numbskull dog owners trying to make you look bad. And I've done some videos on people that this exact same scenario has happened to. And so that goes into their work satisfaction, dealing with the unreal expectations of the dog owners at the daycare. Plus, they're already dealing with the staffing issues as well. And we don't have to look far to find some of the problems that these doggy daycare workers are having to suffer. For example, they get bitten by dogs. So, doggy daycare work, kind of like with our whole bubble concept, that's going to seem super great. It seems like a high value job. It seems like you're going to get all this return on it. But you start working that job, and then you start dealing with all this stuff, and some of the results are here. My dog bit a worker at doggy daycare. It happens very often, and oftentimes it's not reported too. So dog culture is contributing to this unemployment stuff with the doggy daycares. This is a direct one. So another thing is the dog groomers are leaving the industry due to high stress and unrealistic client expectations. So again, the owners, just like with veterinarians that have a high rate of suicide, my apologies, but they're being freaking complete jackass jerks to the people that are serving their dogs. I mean, you work at a doggy daycare, you get groomer's lung, you get bitten, you have to do all this stuff to keep yourself safe and get your body from being hurt by dogs, and it doesn't work. Situation is exacerbated by the increasing demand for grooming services. So these dog owners, they can't just take their dog outside and brush the damn thing out like we used to do 10 or 20 years ago. We've created this high demand job, this supposedly great job. So we've created all these dog grooming jobs, and then people are starting to wake up like, I'm tired of this. I got groomer's lung, I got emphysema from sucking in dog dander all day. Half of the customers that come in they don't want anything else done to their dog. Groom my dog, get me out of here. Yeah, enough said about that one. Let's go on to our next one. Now we're going to talk about surgeons. So this is directly and indirectly. This has to do with the veterinarian surgeons as well as normal surgeons. So what are some of the problems they're facing? Poor job satisfaction, work-life balance. So like I mentioned in a previous video, a lot of these surgeons go into their job not to stitch kids back together after dog bites, not to do orthopedic surgery because grandma tripped over a Great Dane. They got into that job to do something cool for like the sports industry. But now they're stitching kids back together and they can't talk about it. And they can't talk about all the nasty stuff that they deal with dogs. So that's going to contribute to all the stress and everything that goes into their lives. So like we said already, veterinarians are leaving their job. 30% of veterinary professions in clinical practice plan to leave. I have so many good playlists on this. Two veterinarians that I follow on YouTube talk about this issue: the irate customers, the unreal expectations, having to carry obese dogs that weigh like 20 and 30 pounds more than they should up onto a table, hurting their backs. The veterinary assistants, some of them are like young females that weigh like 90 pounds, and they're expected to deal with these giant dogs. And then the obese dogs pass away or get sick, and the customers are mad that the veterinarians didn't fix them. And so, yeah, it's just crazy. Check the description for more on that. And so now police officers, too. Significant retirements, factors contributing to trend in low morale and increased stress. Well, dogs are more and more a problem for police officers. The police dogs themselves attacking innocent people, but just going to calls for dog problems. Stray dogs attacking police officers. These police will be dispatched like 8 police officers at a time to a pit bull attack where a toddler is killed or maimed, or grandma is killed or maimed, or other dogs are maimed. And, they have to deal with that stress of seeing that blood and guts all over the place in their job. So yeah, dog culture is absolutely contributing to the police. So now, motels and hotels. This is another indirect one. But the main thing is housekeeping. So what do those people have to deal with? You go into your room with your dog, you leave the dog in there, it barks all day, and then they get complaints at the motel, and then what happens? The housekeeper has to go in there, clean the kibble off of the floor, clean up the dog shit and piss that you left in the room. There is no way that these dog owners are not contributing to the filthiness of these rooms. And the housekeeping people are the ones that have to deal with it and work extra hard. In fact, I stayed in a motel at the Oregon coast not long ago, and I found kibble on the floor. Like a dog, they just left the room and they gave the dog some kibble, and it was all crunched up and sticky, and then there was whole pieces of it. And that's interesting because that's a cockroach attractant, and motels are having more problems with cockroaches too. And these complaints make it to the websites too. Many motels that allow pets often receive complaints about dogs, noise from barking dogs. Yeah, you go to get a motel, and the people living next to you in their room have a dog and is barking while you're trying to get some rest or something. Yeah. So we talked about veterinarians, but also just the veterinary techs. These are like the junior people that are still going through vet school, spending all that money, trying to learn, but they have a high turnover rate. I've watched several different videos on YouTube with people that spent all this money to be vets, and then they can't stand it. They can't stand their job. Low pay, irate customers, all types of obese, super old dogs that the humans are thinking need to live another decade. Give me some more drugs, give them surgery. But it's unreal. It's unreal expectations. Low pay, lack of professional recognition. Yeah. I hear people talk shit about veterinarians all the time. They charge me so much. They charge me so much. It's like, well, it's your fault. You're the one that chose to get a dog in the first place. A dog is expensive. If you can't pay the veterinarian, then, get rid of the dog and get rid of that cost. The veterinarian person, they didn't join so that you could be a freaking jackass to them. Yeah. So what about like restaurants and stuff? Restaurants are getting closed and bankrupt and getting lawsuits from ADA for people not being allowed to bring their dog in. But another thing that they have to suffer is complaints because dogs go in the restaurants and they can bark or cause other disturbances. And this can turn away customers who may not be comfortable around dogs. So the presence of dogs in restaurants and other places, it turns away people that just want to come there to chill out. And the people in the restaurant have to work harder overall to deal with the dogs. And many restaurants are put in the hole because of lawsuits that are related to American with Disabilities Act. Because jerk-faced, selfish dog owners want to force their presence of their dog on the restaurant, and then all types of nasty stuff happens. But let me show you this one right here. So read this. We were with my family dog. The waitress brought us some food and my Springer bit her. It wasn't blood, but the scratch. So it was very quick. We went to the emergency room and got a tetanus shot. I paid everything, but I know I received a letter from her lawyer that she's very affected. So I got this little write-up from this legal site. So you can go on these legal sites and type in the word dog or waitress or restaurant, and you can find a lot of questions like this. It's these dog owners trying to get out of liability because they're admitting right here that their dog bit the waitress. So that's just an example of what these pet friendly, they put the word friendly in there like that's going to make it all good. Oh, it's pet friendly. Well, why don't we start being waitress friendly or human friendly? Yeah. But yeah, these restaurants that have to deal with these dogs, this is contributing to the workers that want to work there, making their life suck and making them want to go be unemployed, quit this job. Oh, and I forgot to show you guys this one. Many motels are experiencing increased issues with cockroach infestations. Yeah, right alongside with the presence of dogs. What do dogs leave in the room? Food scraps all over the place. What do cockroaches love? Food scraps. What else do cockroaches love? CO2. They're attracted to it. People leave their dogs in their motel room, go around town and check out the shops and stuff, while the dog fills the room with CO2, and roaches love that stuff. Let's cruise through a couple more indirect places. Food companies. Lots of layoffs that happen at pet food companies. And these same companies, they also own companies that make products for humans. So give this some thought, everybody. If you're a giant conglomerate company and you're losing some money in your pet food area, but you want to keep offering pet food, how can you do that? You can lay off people in your human food production part of your company to keep the dog part of it going. And then you can get a government grant and the taxpayers can pay for this. And that has happened. And so this summary right here, we're just looking at these food companies, Tails.com and Blue Buffalo, which are connected to Purina. And also Purina most famously recently closed this, or laid off a bunch of people at the Solon factory. So with all these layoffs and people not buying as much pet food, how can they keep going as a dog food company? Well, they can stop producing human food too. So this affects everybody. So notice right here, Lean Cuisine and Stouffer's. So overall in society, more dog owners are more concerned with their nutrition or with their dog's nutrition than theirs. So if you're a company that's trying to stay afloat and you know that many people would just eat garbage food but feed better food to their dogs, Well, you can just like quit producing stuff like lean cuisine and Stouffer's or other like higher quality food offerings and just start putting more money into dog food production, because you know those sucker dog owners will go broke nutritionally and financially to feed their dogs. And so that's kind of like this bubble, because we as dog worshippers, we're basically telling companies like this, look, we don't want lean cuisine and Stouffer's or any other thing else. What we want is a bunch of dog food. And so these dog food companies, they know that. So they're going to go more into promoting a bunch of dog food purchases. And so we're creating the bubble also for these companies, because when dogs fall out of favor, they're going to have to hard shift gears back into producing food for humans. And so that's very similar to the way a bubble works. I know we're getting a little off topic talking about the bubble, but all of this still relates. And of course, we got to give a mention to Petco. Petco has had a lot of layoffs recently. So working at Petco, being around dogs, selling dog foods, that was supposed to be a high value job, super great job, but then you got laid off. And when these people get laid off with all these veterinarians and Petco workers and everything, they're just going to go home. They're going to go home and pet their dog and live off of your taxpayer dollar for a couple weeks or 6 months while they sit at home spoiling their dog, recovering from all this stress of serving dogs. Yeah. Isn't that crazy, guys? Well, see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to check the links. See you later.